pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. The prayers this morning will be offered by the good delegate representing Frederick and Carroll counties.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Dear Lord, as we have reached the week of the Festivus of session, please give us strength to get through the next several days. Give us grace to ourselves, to each other. Let's get through it together in as much good harmony as we can. In the Lord's name, amen.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 members present and the House is now in session, the clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, February 28, 2025.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the journal.
So ordered. Petitions, memorials, and other papers. Report of the Committee on Appropriations, report number 10. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 502, Office of Disability Employment Advancement and Policy and Maryland as a Model Employer Initiative established. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1429, Youth Services Bureau's Criminal History Record Checks, Employees, Volunteers, and Interns. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 11. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 301, Criminal Procedure, Forensic Genetic Genealogical DNA Analysis and Search, Affidavit for Judicial Authorization. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 478, Hagerstown Community College Police Force Jurisdiction. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1191, Family Law, Child Custody Determinations. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1293, Baltimore City Office of the Sheriff Neighborhood Services Unit. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 13. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 261, Estates and Trust Priority of claims on an estate, unpaid child support, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 309, Public Safety Law Enforcement Agencies Peer Support Programs, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 413, Criminal Law, Controlled Dangerous Substances and Firearms, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing like yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can I hold this bill until the second session or tomorrow for the purpose of an amendment?
Second session sounds fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Tomorrow. Time tomorrow. Okay. Question for the House is a special order HB 413 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for special order tomorrow. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 658, Juvenile Services Education Board alterations, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 681, Child Support Driver's License Suspension for Arrearages and Court Orders, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk read next bill.
House Bill 877, Prison Education Delivery Reform Commission, reporting and sunset extension, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Ways and Means. Report number 10. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 546, Digital Advertising Gross Revenues Tax Assessments, Appeals and Corrections, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk read next bill.
House Bill 801, Maryland Financial Empowerment Center Network Pilot Program Establishment, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Real exciting. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1200, Property Tax Credit for Law Enforcement Officer or Rescue Worker Expansion to Judicial Officer, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk read next bill.
House Bill 1450, Maryland Small Business Innovation Research and Technology Transfer Incentive Program alterations, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Appropriations, report number 11. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 176, Labor and Employment, Occupational Safety and Health Revisions, Davis Martinez, in Public Employee Safety and Health Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Who's up? Appropriations? Who's doing it?
Madam Speaker,
Yes,
can we special order this to the end of this calendar?
sure.
Thank you.
Question before the House is it's a special order HB 176 until the end of the calendar. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The bill has been special ordered. Okay. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 599, State Personnel, BWI, Airport Fire and Rescue Department, Collective Bargaining and Arbitration Processes. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical, and amendment number 2 clarifies that the decision of the arbiter is subject to the limitations of state budget and adds provisions to amend the state constitution to create a constitutional amendment in order to mandate the appropriations necessary to implement the terms and conditions in the memorandum of understanding, and then makes the bill contingent on the passage of that constitutional amendment. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 980, Higher Education, Edward T. and Mary A. Conroy Memorial Scholarship Program, eligibility. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The First Amendment clarifies that any applicant who is eligible for the Chapter 35 Survivors Dependents Educational Assistance Benefit is eligible for the scholarship. The Second Amendment delays the effective date of the bill until July 1st, 2026 to avoid any potential impact on the fiscal year. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1061, State-Owned Property, Inventory and Disposition, Housing and Solar Energy Production. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment 1 is technical. Amendment 2 removes provisions requiring the Department of Planning to assess state-owned properties for the suitability of solar energy production and clarifies certain reporting procedures. Move the amendments.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1090, Food Supplement Benefits, Students Eligibility. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The First Amendment is technical. The Second Amendment strikes the provisions of the bill that requires the Department of Human Services to provide food supplemental benefits to certain students. Move the amendments.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1352, Sickle Cell Disease, Institutions of Higher Education, Policies, Procedures, and Educational Campaigns. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you. There is an amendment to add a sponsor. Move the amendments, please.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 176, Labor and Employment, Occupational Health and Safety and Health Revisions, Davis Martinez Public Employee Safety and Health Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 removes all additional penalties for public bodies and elected officials, grants statutory authority to the department to use body-worn cameras for parole and probation agents. It also removes the application of the body-worn camera program on local detention facilities and makes several other clarifying changes. Please move the bill as amended. Be so much be the reading of the amendments.
Okay. So ordered. We're doing this bill. Go ahead.
Move the amendments.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report. Am I saying that part? Yeah, as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title?
Madam Speaker.
Can I finish this? Are you talking about this particular bill?
Yep.
Why you wait till I get all the way down to the last? Yes.
I'm
what do you
here.
got?
Question for the floor leader.
Floor
Sure.
Thank you. So it was mentioned briefly, the amendment removes the limit that this applies to corrections facilities. Can you articulate for us where this could be used now?
So they can already use it for state prisons. It'll allow it to also be used for parole and probation agents. This is partially in response to the tragic death of Agent Davis Martinez last May. So we're setting up a program to allow them to have extra safety. What we removed was this application on local detention facilities because their association came together and asked, and we received it as a friendly amendment, particularly from the minority party.
Awesome. Thank you.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 12. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 485, St. Mary's County Corrections. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Move so
Committee
much.
Chair, go ahead.
Thank you. Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment alters sponsors on the bill. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now to adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 623, Estates and Trust, Estate Administration, Publication of Notice. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment 1 adds co-sponsors and is technical. Amendment 2 alters the provisions of the bill, providing that the publication of certain notices on the centralized website of the registers of wills will satisfy notice requirements of an estate only if a decedent's heirs are limited to certain individuals. And Amendment 3 adds an annual reporting requirement for each register in the state and the Maryland Register of Wills Association. I move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 788, Judicial Department, Commission on Judicial Disabilities, Temporary Appointment. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing
Speaker.
the floor. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have amendment at the desk. It is amendment number 883526.
Hold.
I'm sorry.
Hold.
This. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Move so much the reading of the amendments,
Okay. The committee amendments.
the committee amendments.
Yes, okay.
Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 requires any temporary substitute member of the commission to be a member of the bar in good standing. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title?
Madam
Floor leader?
Speaker,
Yes.
thank you. I have an amendment at the desk. It is amendment number 883526.
Amendment number 1.
This is an amendment to the amendment, and this is a committee amendment. In amendment number 2 strikes beginning with must, the word must in line 5 down through standing in line 6, and substitutes, if the member is a judge or an attorney, the member must be in good standing of the Maryland Bar. Move the amendment, please.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the committee. Oh. Okay. The clerk will read the next bill and the committee that it is re-referred to.
We haven't gotten there yet. We've got a couple more. We've got a couple of bills before that.
I thought so, but okay. Report of the Committee on Judiciary. Report number 14. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 408, Prince George's County Coordinated Youth Violence Review and Response Team. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
The question for the House is the adoption of. Who's the floor leader?
Madam Speaker.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds a sponsor. Amendment 2 adds additional members to review the response team and extends the reporting deadline. Please move the amendments.
The question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 748, Municipalities, Enforcement Officers, Body-worn Cameras. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much we consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds a sponsor and makes technical change. Amendment number 2 applies the exception under the Wiretap Act for law enforcement use of body cams to municipal enforcement officers. And Amendment 3 defines enforcement officer and requires consistency with Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission's policies for body cams. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report. All favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1197, Frederick County Sheriff Salary, re-referred to Environment and Transportation.
Okay. All right. It's gone. Yes.
I just have a question for the committee chair, if I could.
Committee chair.
Morning. So, are you the committee chair, or is it in Judiciary?
Well, if you look at the history of sheriff salaries bill, many sheriff salaries bill have been in the Environment and Transportation Committee, long predating me, so I wouldn't call myself the committee chair, but Chair Kumar Barve was the committee chair, Chair Maggie McIntosh was the committee chair. Probably goes back to Chair Ronald Guns, to be honest with you. It's been a while.
What I remember from last year was that the Judiciary Committee was hearing sheriff salaries for other counties. Like Carroll County, I think there was a very eloquent speech by the chair of the Judiciary Committee last year about local courtesy, and when a vote is taken, it's taken, and we don't look at the individuals. We just look to the county. So I was just trying to understand why, 4 days before crossover, it's transferring to a different committee.
I can remember at least 2 times where the Frederick County Sheriff bill was in the Environment and Transportation Committee, including once before I was chair. So this has a very long precedent in history. We have a whole subcommittee dedicated to local government. Yeah. This is a local government issue.
So is it being transferred to die?
I can't tell you the intent of why it was transferred over, but we'll give it full consideration like we do every other bill from all members of this chamber.
Okay. Will you hear the bill before crossover?
If that's a request that you would like us to add the bill to our today, we can do it today. We have a hearing today. Would that satisfy the minority?
I just think that would be the right thing.
Okay. Will you be able to come present the bill this afternoon?
Would you like me to present the bill? Sure. Yes.
It's up to you. Do you want to present the bill?
Yes, I'll present the bill today. If you put it on the agenda, I'll be there.
We'll add it to the agenda, and we take virtual testimony. So if you need anybody else who wants to zoom in, I know it's short notice. We're happy to have them.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Report of the Committee on Ways and Means, report number 11. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 147, County Boards of Education, Elementary and Middle School Student Technology Use Policy. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments, please.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical, and amendment number 2 expands the scope of the bill from elementary and middle school to an overall policy for public school students, alters a requirement minimum policy to one that limits the use of smartphones and other electronic devices during instructional time, and requires a policy to be published on the school system website and in student handbooks. Move the committee amendments, please.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 317, Election Law Curbside Voting Pilot Program. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker,
Floor leader.
so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The amendment makes a change to the bill to ensure that we prioritize those with disabilities and the elderly. I move the committee amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 879, Task Force to Improve Attendance and Reduce Chronic Absenteeism in Schools. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment adds a public school student and a school-based public health professional to the task force. Move the committee amendments, please.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 935, Public Schools Venue Specific Emergency Action Plans, High School Football Games. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 adds healthcare professionals to the list of people who can satisfy the venue-specific emergency action plan for high school football games, allows ambulances located near the football game to meet the policy's criteria, clarifies that ambulances may leave to respond to another emergency, and makes an identical policy changes to the venue-specific emergency plans for non-public high school football games. Move the committee amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations. Report number 16. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 32, Maryland Department of Health Forensic Review Board and Community Forensic Aftercare Program established. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 defines authorized agent, requires a forensic review board to consider a written statement offered by the committed person and provides certain notice. Authorizes a committed person to appoint an authorized agent to attend the portion of the review board meeting concerning the committed person, requires the committed person's treatment team to implement recommendations from the forensic review board, and strikes the codification of the community forensic aftercare program within MDH. I move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment's been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. I'm saying this twice. We're listening. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 459, Health Insurance Cancer Screening for Professional Firefighters Required Coverage, James Jimmy Malone Act. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1, it's sponsored and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 limits the provisions of the bill to counties and provides that counties may satisfy the requirements of the bill by providing a no-cost annual examination by applying for a grant to pay for innovative cancer screening technologies. The amendments also require counties to report specified data to the Maryland Healthcare Commission and require the Commission to study the data and to report on the impact of expanding the preventive screening requirement by December 1st, 2028. Madam Speaker, please move the committee amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next.
House Bill 761, Maryland Uniform Disposition of Abandoned Property Act revisions. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 defines gift card and gift certificate, strikes language relating to the maturation and termination of an insurance policy, alters the value of which the comptroller is required to publish notice, and removes certain dollar thresholds being added in the bill related to offsetting of unclaimed property. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 765, Hospitals Medical Debt Collection, Sale of Patient Debt. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 adds nonprofit organizations as entities that may purchase debt from a hospital for the purpose of canceling that debt. That's in amendments 2 and 3. Now on to amendment number 4, which strikes the provision making it an emergency bill and instead makes the bill effective for 3 years beginning July 1st, 2025. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? You stand up for what reason?
I have some questions on the bill or its title.
Madam Speaker.
Good morning. Could you just tell me what the bill does with the amendments? We had a bill in our committee related to medical debt for credit reports, so I have some additional interest in the subject. Just wanted to hear what the bill does.
Sure. What the bill does, it allows an entity to purchase medical debt from hospitals for the purpose of canceling that debt. Typically, when debt is purchased, it's purchased for pennies on the dollar, and so it allows a government or a nonprofit organization to assist people who are being crushed by crippling medical debt that was incurred through no fault of their own by having this entity purchase the debt and cancel it for them.
So the entity that you're talking about, what do they get, grant funding, or is there some type of...
Typically, yes.
All right, thanks.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 807, Information Technology Modernizing Data Governance, Office of Enterprise Data and Council for Open Data Advancement. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing floor leader.
Good morning. Move so much be consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment number 1 corrects typos. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 813, Pharmacy Benefits Administration, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, and Pharmacy Benefits Managers. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 requires the Maryland Insurance Administration and the Maryland Department of Health to convene a work group to study specified issues related to pharmacy benefit managers. Move the amendment, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 826, State Government Interdepartmental Advisory Committee on Small Minority and Women Business Affairs. Repeal. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Madam Speaker, move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical and alters the short title. Amendment number 2 updates language relating to shelter workshop. Move the amendments.
The question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 905, Hospitals, Clinical Staffing Committees and Plans Establishment Safe Staffing Act of 2025. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The First Amendment adds co-sponsors. The Second Amendment requires that a physician member of the Clinical Staffing Committee be a staff physician who's not a hospital employee or administrator. Requires the Clinical Staffing Committee to develop a clinical staffing plan that meets patient needs, strikes language related to staff ratios, strikes the requirement that a hospital post the staffing plan on its website, states the intent of the General Assembly that the Maryland Hospital Association compile reports from hospitals on how the hospitals have addressed safe staffing, and provide reports to the Health and Government Operations Committee and the Senate Finance Committee. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 991, State Procurement Minority Business Enterprise Program Extension and Reports. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical and adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 includes in the bill an extension for MBE requirements for public-private partnerships and the associated disparity study. I move the amendments.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now to adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1086, Maryland Medical Assistance Program and Health Insurance Coverage for Anesthesia, Prohibiting Time Limitations. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you. Amendment 1 adds sponsors. Amendment 2 specifies that coverage must include medical care related to the delivery of anesthesia that is provided immediately before and after the procedure, and clarifies that Medicaid or a carrier may not establish, implement, or enforce a policy, practice, or procedure that places time limitations on delivery of anesthesia. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1104, Maryland Department of Health, AHEAD Model Implementation, Electronic Healthcare Transactions, and Population Health Improvement Fund. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 makes a technical change. Amendment number 2 provides that the HSCRC may assess a reasonable amount in hospital rates for each year of the total cost of care, AHEAD model, and any successor model. It requires the HSCRC to include the full amount of the assessment in the hospital rates, requires any funds from the assessment to be used for certain purposes, and requires the Maryland Department of Health to submit a certain report to the Maryland General Assembly each year on the fund. Amendment number 3 sunsets the Population Health Improvement Fund on December 31st, 2030. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1243, Health Insurance Coverage for Specialty Drugs. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognize Senior Vice Chair of the Committee.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, and thank you. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 provides that provisions of the bill do not supersede the Health Services Cost Review Commission's authority to set rates for specialty drugs administered in settings regulated by the HSCRC. And amendment number 3 prohibits the reimbursement rate for specialty drugs from exceeding the rate paid to the designated specialty pharmacy unless otherwise agreed to by the interested parties. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1246, Health Benefit Plans, Calculation of Cost Sharing Contribution Requirements. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Be so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 specifies that the notice requirements must be met within 7 days of the assistance being accepted, requires that any assistance to be offered for the duration of the plan year, and provides that the notice of the provisions and requirement for assistance to last the full plan year do not apply to charitable organizations. And amendment number 3 prohibits a carrier from setting, altering, implementing, or conditioning the terms of health benefit plan coverage on information about the amount of financial or product assistance available for the prescription drug, and provides that this provision may not be construed to prohibit a carrier from using rebates in its plan design. Move the amendments, please.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operation, report number 15. Clerk, read the first bill.
House Bill 855, Work Group on Establishing a Science and Technology Best Practices and Innovation Network Alterations. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1131, Public Health Buprenorphine Training Grant Program and Work Group. Favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading House bills number 47. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 672, School Health and Wellness Personnel Assessment and Maryland Council on Advancement of School-Based Health Centers.
House Bill 672 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 102 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 672, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 699, General Provisions, Veterans Benefits, Honorable Discharge.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 699, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 893, Title Fish Licenses, Oyster Authorizations, Administrative Penalties.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 893, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1069, Life and Health Insurance Policies and Annuity and Health Maintenance Organization Contracts, Discretionary Clauses, Prohibition.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1069, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1082, Health Insurance Individual Market Stabilization, Establishment of the State-Based Health Insurance Subsidies Program.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 103 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1082, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1181, Task Force on the Establishment of a State Park Dedicated to Veterans Care.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, kind of a little bit mature here, premature here. If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1181, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1210, Workers' Compensation Evaluation of Permanent Impairments, Licensed Certified Social Worker, Clinical.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1210, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
vote change on House Bill 1082 to nay.
Any other vote changes? Okay. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 49. Clerk will read the first bill.
Household 150, Child Care Centers, Certificated Staff Ratio Requirement Alteration.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 107 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 150, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Household 448, Modernization of Military Laws Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 448, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Household 719, Natural Resources State Boat Act alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Yes.
Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. So we talked about this bill on second reader. It's pretty broad. It includes, I think, all boats, including ones without motors. And it raises millions of dollars in fees, similar to the raising fees on old fisher folks. As we've said a million times, we don't think we should be raising the cost of living in this great state. One of the benefits of our state is that the amount of waterways and tributaries that we have, and I think this kind of goes against that. I mean, this makes it more difficult for Marylanders to enjoy the recreation we have in our state. And so what I'll say with this is, look, a rising tide of increased fee and taxes does not lift all boats. I'll be voting against this. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minority Whip, and thank you for your comments. I want to point out a couple of things. We did not actually have a broad debate yesterday, so I want to point out a couple of things. These fees, for one, a title for a boat, two, numbering and certificate of number for a boat, and Maryland user fees have not been increased since 1983. There are people in this room that weren't even born since then. So we're talking about 40 years. We're talking about 40 years since the department has now, 40 plus years later, has an increase where their duties don't match the fees that they've had. And so just so that we can lay it out, because I know not everyone has read the bill, in 1983 to now, it was $2 for a title of your boat. It is now $20. I think it matches inflation. It was $24 for any size boat to be registered and numbered. $24 for 2 years. That's $12 a year, now raised to $70, $35 for any size boat. it is on par and probably lower than costs on the shore, or excuse me, on the coast here. It also just requires, one, again, we talked about this briefly yesterday, that if you do have a vessel that is non-motorized, and no, that is not a inner tube, it is a canoe or any type of boat that otherwise would be in the waters, would be capsized, can be voluntarily registered. So if it is in the waters, DNR police can see this boat, take it back to the person it's belonged to, rather than potentially hoping to go and use resources to see if somebody is potentially capsized. And so these bills, these fees for the boats, I think are necessary. I think they match inflation. There were no real oppositions to this bill. They worked with essentially the Coast Guard to help bring these fees up to par. And quite frankly, if we love our DNR police, if we love the work that DNR is doing, if we love and we want DNR to manage the Boat Act and the requirements of it, then we would support these fees. Thank you so much.
Is there any further debate?
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a lot of good friends at DNR, and I talked to a few of them. They actually said they didn't support this. We're talking about raising fees since 1983. In my district, we have a lot of boats, and I just know if I didn't stand up and say something about this, I would hear it when I got back to the district. Just because we haven't raised it since 1983 don't mean we have to. And, you know, these are recreational, and we want to make sure that we keep it feasible for people on limited incomes can still use their vessels. And I feel this is the wrong direction. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a shame that bills like this are coming at a time when we're looking at $1 billion of other fees and taxes being increased. I think this bill would probably have just flown right by if we hadn't gotten into a $3 billion hole on other things. So, and frankly, the governor's budget, when it came down, natural resources was one of the biggest cuts he made. So, you know, this has nothing to do with the good people of E&T and raising it from $2 to $20. It doesn't seem like a lot, except that it's a drop on top of an overflowing bucket of taxes and fees that's about to come raining down on the heads of every single Marylander. So that's why I will continue to be a no on this bill.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There be 100 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 719, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 783, Health Occupations, Implicit Bias and Structural Racism Training.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 101 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 783, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 932, Public Ethics, Conflicts of Interest and Blind Trust. Governor.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 932, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1347, Cannabis Agents, Registration, Security Guards.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1347, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1442, Juveniles Truancy Reduction Pilot Programs, report.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1442, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading House Bills number 50. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 513, Crimes Relating to Animals, Restrictions on Keeping Roosters.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate about the roosters? Oh. If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 513, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 573, State Board of Dental Examiners Expanded Function Dental Assistance Education and Reinstatement.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 573, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 662, Procurement Indefinite Quantity Contracts Authorization.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 662, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 666, Maryland Medical Assistance Program and Health Insurance Required Coverage for Calcium Score Testing.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 108 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 666, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1045, Health Insurance, Family Planning Services, and Confidentiality of Medical Records, Consumer Protections Updates.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 102 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1045, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1060, Judicial and Public Safety for Service Members Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1060, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Yes.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from the Eastern Shore, I'm looking right at you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just clarifying.
Vote change, House Bill 1210 to nay, House Bill 150 to yay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change on HB 513 to yay.
Get your slips up here. Yes.
House Bill 513 to yay, please.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, on Bill 1060 to green.
Just don't forget to bring your slips up. Yes.
My finger didn't work on 1442. I'd like to be in the green. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. 1060 to green.
Anyone else?
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
I'm sorry, 1060 to green as well, please.
Any other vote changes? Okay. Okay. Special order calendar number 30. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 23, Property Taxes, Authority of Counties to establish a subclass and set a special rate for commercial and residential and industrial property. Favorable report is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the floor leader rise for a question? Madam Speaker?
Go ahead.
Thank you. All right, so yesterday I went on and on and on about shalls and mays, and I said I quite often amended bills in committee where I took a may and made it a shall, and had concerns about this shall not, may not. Would you like to correct the record on the subject?
I think the body has spent a good amount of hours now studying and researching and now knowing that may not is the correct word, that the correct word is in the bill. But I appreciate you raising that question.
I learn something new every day, and I thank you for your kindness in correcting the record.
Thank you.
All right. Matt. I'm nicer to you than I am my chairman, so take that for Madam Speaker, I have an amendment at the desk.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so I'd like to have amendment number 483528/1.
Amendment number 1.
Be so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So the debate we had yesterday, which was brief, but I had some questions about the bill. Would we, if we pass this bill, actually have a scenario where the government body would actually reduce the tax rate as opposed to raise it? And the answer from the floor leader was, well, that's certainly possible. So I'm excited to bring this amendment because what this amendment does is says that the only thing that can happen if we create a subclass for these commercial industrial properties is to lower the taxes, not raise the taxes. So we as a body get to vote on, in a year of many tax increases I'm sure that are coming, a tax cut. So why would we do a bill like this? Well, if we're going to pass a bill, and I could support the bill if we pass it with my amendment, we're actually doing this because we would understand and benefit as a state and as a county by lowering the rates for commercial and industrial properties. They are our job creators. They are economic development and growth when we need it most. And Madam Speaker, I'd ask that the body move the amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Roll call.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone want to change your vote? Clerk will take the call. Well, there being 99 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is printed for third.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
I believe the floor system is not working.
Okay. Just chill. We got the hero coming up. They're
Madam Speaker.
working on it right now. So.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Vote change HB 1060 to the green, please.
Okay. Apparently we're in operation. Special order calendar number 31. Clerk will read.
House Bill 155, Housing and Community Development, Greenhouse Gas Emissions Reductions, Issuance of Loans, and Achievement of Targets. Favor report is amended and adopted.
And this was a motion by Delegate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I spoke to the committee chair and he answered all my questions.
Okay. All righty. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk, 783128/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much we consider the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The amendment that you'll have to consider and vote on here over the next few minutes relates to maybe the one chance the 139, 140 of us that are here in the room will have to be able to say to their constituents that I took an action that in the short term can cut your residential utility bill. All of you, I suspect, or most of you, have heard from constituents. You're certainly following along. I suspect many, if not all of us, pay our own utility bills, and we have witnessed that in the past several months, past a year or more, utility bills are creating a massive hole in the budgets of everyday, regular, middle class, working class, upper middle class Marylanders. Those of us that aren't rich enough to just say, hey, I got plows of money, I just pay for stuff, I don't even know how much it costs. It'd be nice to be like that. I suspect that, 95, 98, 99% of people don't live like that. And so it's very difficult, as the policymakers in this field from the relevant committees understand, it's very difficult to do things to have short-term and immediate impacts on utility rates. But one of the things that this General Assembly chose to do is a program called Empower. Empower was brought about in 2008. I wasn't here. The vast majority of people in this room weren't here. Few were. And the Empower program originally had things to do with, we're going to impose a fairly minimal surcharge on everyone's utility bill, and we're going to have the power companies, the utility providers, use those monies to go out and incentivize or provide mechanisms for people to get more energy efficient things like LED light bulbs and just ways that sort of improve the energy efficiency of your home, with the theory being we'll pay a little more now, maybe we'll save a lot more long term. In 2024, virtually all of us, other than those of us who were more recently appointed here, sat in this room and the room across the hall, and we changed and added to the nature of the program to include a variety of greenhouse gas emission reduction targets within the Empower program. What has occurred? Well, ratepayers across the state's Empower surcharge that they see on their bills have gone up exponentially, dramatically. There's reason to believe that for some ratepayers, particularly in the Baltimore larger metropolitan area served by some of the major utilities in this state, they've gone up 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times the surcharge that they're seeing on their bills in recent months. There's other reasons why their utility bills are going up, without a doubt. There's other reasons. But these aren't surcharges that directly relate to the costs of producing the energy, like buying it from natural gas power plants and nuclear power plants in Pennsylvania and shipping it down here because we don't make enough energy for our own people because we refuse to. These are costs that we impose. These aren't market-based costs coming from PJM, coming from some other system. They're costs that we impose because we made a decision that the mantra of greenhouse gas reduction would come before saving your constituents hundreds and hundreds of dollars potentially in money. We're not making this up. This is just reality. Go ask your constituents, go ask anyone and say, hey, are your costs going up? Do you look at your bill? Is your power surcharge gone up? If it's gone up $15 a month, that's a $180 a year tax hike that we put on you. If it's gone up $30 a month, that's a $360 a year tax hike. We're celebrating tax cuts for low-income people that add up to $50, $100, $150 a year. We're ignoring that we're increasing their cost of living through this program. So what the amendment simply does is it says, because we do not have a handle on these amazing, rapidly rising utility and energy costs for our folks of all stripes, that we are going to pause. We're not going to eliminate necessarily. We're going to pause. We're going to freeze the portions of the Empower surcharge that relate to and fund back the greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. Not all of the purposes of the program, but those particularized purposes of the program for 2 years. Not for 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, for 2 years. We're going to pause those elements to allow and hope that through other policies and through other market forces and through other work that can be done, that perhaps utility bills, monthly electric bills, and heating bills will start going down so that our folks don't have to make a decision between, do I buy my medicine this month or do I pay my utility bill? Do I pay my rent this month or do I pay my utility bill? Seems like you got to do both of those things. We have people who are drowning with utility bills and we can't seem to fix it. But you could do this today and say, hey, for 2 years, we're going to try to help you by cutting that Empower surcharge by some percent every month. That's all the intent and the purpose of the amendment is, and I hope that people consider that to be a worthy bipartisan goal, and that they don't just simply say, because we did it last year and we love greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, and yeah, we know it costs more money, but who cares? We've got to stick with it. Stick with it 4, 5, 6 years from now. Maybe things have changed. Right now, give people a blessed break on their utility bills starting as soon as possible. The only thing that maybe we can do in the short term to get that done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, Floor Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First off, I want to make sure that everyone understands here on the floor that this program, the amendment that the gentleman is talking about the empowerment program. This bill has nothing to do with the empowerment program. If you want to discuss the empowerment program, which was established by Chapter 539, 2024, I think it was HB 864, you need to come back next year and go to the Economic Matters Committee. That Economic Matters Committee is the committee, the appropriate committee where you need to discuss the empowerment program. That is not part of this bill. Number two, you want to push back for 2 years something that is already in place, staff is already hired, staff is already working. They're already in place, and the program that you are trying to push back for 2 years is already functioning. So for all those reasons, ladies and gentlemen, please resist this amendment. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand to support this amendment. I'd like to point out that this is not the empowerment program. This is the Empower program that was started under Martin O'Malley in 2008. We can do this. I don't know if any of you read the Gonzalez poll that came out, but it illustrates what we are each hearing in our offices about unaffordable power, about people not being able to pay their gas and electric bill. Baltimore City had a town hall recently, and they invited people to come discuss things that were on their mind. This was 2 or 3 weeks ago. You know what the top issue was? People's gas and electric bill, because it had doubled and they couldn't afford it. One city resident said, quote, "I shouldn't have to choose between oxygen and heat. Sometimes I turn my heat off just to keep my oxygen going because of the bill." This is reality. This isn't a hypothetical scenario. This is reality for many Marylanders. They are having to choose between medicine, food, or heat. This is our opportunity right now to deliver savings for them. And it's not just seniors on a fixed income. This Empower fee is hurting senior communities. One here locally sent me their gas and electric bill. Their Empower fee was $469.18. We would rather have that money go to support the facility and nursing care than to pay this fee. This is the right thing to do. A 2-year pause will deliver immediate relief. And remember, in June, there will be another rate hike. We won't be here when people turn their air conditioning on, but once again, those bills are going to be unaffordable. So I urge you today to vote for this and tell your citizens that you care about their gas and electric bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Committee Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to thank the minority leader for getting the committee amendment. I think the reason my colleague on the committee accidentally called it empowerment and not empower is because the issue of the Empower program is generally not dealt with by the Environment and Transportation Committee, but actually the Economic Matters Committee. That was a program that was created under the O'Malley administration, I believe reauthorized in the Hogan administration, and continues today. But since that program is mostly dealt with in the Economic Matters Committee, I'd like to defer to the leadership of that committee to opine on the amendment.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And on this amendment, I'll defer to my Padawan if I can and let him handle the amendment. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I appreciate the minority leader giving us the amendment, avoiding a bill in ECM and not coming to the Thunderdome. I also think that Exelon provided the amendment, and we will see them at 1 o'clock. But what the amendment does, essentially, is delay the Empower program. And I have up the report right now. For every dollar put into the Empower program, there is $2.17 of savings across the entire system. And that benefits all of us. The investments into Empower and into our system that reduce or shave peak essentially reduces capital expenditures and profits for Exelon. And that's why they don't like the program. But make no mistake, that program benefits us. There are a lot of other facts being thrown around about Maryland not wanting to grow its own energy. No, that's not true. We do want to grow our own energy. The fact of the matter is, actually, when you look at the RTO, our regional transmission organization, and we buy into our market, 40% of our energy is actually at a lower cost because there's a competitive procurement process through that. So if we just gave away everything to generate more energy here in the state without doing it the proper way, which we do have bills coming that are going to address this specific issue, but if we just did it that way and had the cash grab, our energy bills would go through the roof. Additionally, the Empower surcharge did go up, and we had a very lengthy debate here last year about why it went up. It went up because there is a balance that has been since the inception of the program that the utilities have been allowed to capitalize off interest through doing nothing. And we said we want to pay that down over a period of 9 years, eliminate the balance, and save ratepayers $300 million. So again, I urge the body to resist this amendment because ratepayers who put money into the Empower program save ratepayers money in the end. And if you support the amendment, Essentially, what you're saying is you're going to support BGE and investments and rate hikes for unnecessary reasons to the people of Maryland.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, we've had a lot of healthy debate, and certainly in our committee. The truth of the matter is, the policies that we have passed over the past several years have harmed people. So we can say we're saving $2.17, but the calls that we get, the emails that we get, do not reflect that. The people of Carroll County, Frederick County, and much of Baltimore County, we are the ones who are being harmed by the green policies that we have passed over the past several years. You are bringing in energy from out of state at the expense of our farmers, our homeowners, and people are paying more on their bills. And so we can have this debate over the overarching policy, but the truth is we are hurting people. And I think that having a 2-year delay makes sense so we can get our hands around it, and I urge a favorable vote on this amendment. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Minority Leader.
Okay.
I did call your name. I did call your name.
I couldn't hear. I couldn't tell. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to say briefly, in closing for me at least, a couple of things. I have a lot of respect and friendship for my colleague from St. Mary's County. He knows that it's a complicated issue. But I'll tell you what, if you tell people that a program is saving you money, but every month it goes up on your bill, I don't know, man. I don't know. I got taught a long time ago, you know, juries aren't stupid. They listen, they live in the real world, and they hear you. And voters aren't stupid, and people aren't stupid either. When you tell someone, boy, I'm saving you money by charging you more money every month, and you can't pay the bill, and you need ratepayer assistance, and you're struggling to pay your other costs, and you're defaulting on your mortgage, and you're not making your rent, and your bill, I live in Western Maryland. I really don't know the difference of where the territory is for BG, Pepco, Exelon, whatever it is. It's not where I pay my power bill, so I'm not too expert as to which company cares the most about it. What I am not an expert in, because I think we all can be expert in it, just common blessed sense. When you're charging people more money every month to achieve a policy goal as opposed to an economic goal, you're not saving the money. You're not saving the money. I'm going to save you $2 10 years from now, but give me that extra dollar today that you can't afford today. That's not how real people live in the real world that have struggled to pay their bills. And secondly, with respect to, we're interested in Maryland creating more power. We want to create more of our own domestic energy power. Can anyone tell me how many new power plants have been built in the state of Maryland over the last 10 years? 0. Can anyone tell me how many power plants have been closed through the direct and indirect consequences of policies of the state of Maryland in the last 10 years? I think it's 8. I think it's 8. So if I have 8 power plants and they're producing energy and they're feeding into the grid and they're turning the lights on in this building and they're keeping little old ladies warm at night, and you shut those 8 off and you don't build a single one to replace it, how many windmills are generating energy off the coast of Ocean City? 0. How many windmills? Do you know where the only project is in the entire state where wind has been generated in the last 10 years? It's in my district. I can see it from my house every day. It's the only wind project that has happened in the state for the entire time I've been in this assembly is in my district. Look at it every day. And I can tell you this, because of the fights that exist over windmill turbines, none of you will ever see a windmill project in your district again, and neither will I. It took them 15 years, 3 lawsuits to the Court of Special Appeals, 2 proceedings before the Public Service Commission. No one in their right mind would invest money in putting in a windmill project in the state of Maryland today, and certainly not under the auspices of the elimination of tax credits from our federal partners. So there's not going to be any more onshore wind. There's not going to be any offshore wind for the short term. There's not going to be any new natural gas power plants. There's not going to be any new coal power plants. We are killing ourselves and costing ourselves more money on a policy decision, on a goal that may be laudable, but its consequences are significant. And all I want the amendment to do is save those people $10, $15, $20, $30 a month that need it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker. Very briefly, ladies and gentlemen, I understand the need for the discussion, but this bill has nothing to do with Empower at all. Nothing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll suggest to you a red vote on this.
Vice Chair Committee.
Madam Speaker, there was a lot said there, and there was a lot of misinformation there as well. But what I would say is we are trying to generate more energy in the state of Maryland. One of the biggest factors or inhibitors of us producing more solar, for instance, is NIMBY and counties blocking those projects. All of the counties. Also, U.S. Wind, to their credit, despite all the hurdles and all the challenges, I think they're going to pull this off, and they are going to build wind off our coast because of a bill we brought last year. And the last thing I would say is we haven't needed to build nearly as many generators because through the Empower program, we've reduced peaks. We shaved peak, and that has precipitously dropped. So I'm not really sure what this has to do with the bill, but again, if we have an economic matters bill that pertains to utilities, bring it to the Thunderdome, and we could do it there. And for those reasons, I urge the body to resist this amendment and this handout to Exelon.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to just clarify a couple comments that were made. So if anyone refers to the fiscal note, the Empower program on this bill, HB 155, is mentioned several times. So clearly, this bill does deal with the Empower program. So I want to just correct the record of my friend there from the E&T committee. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand to support this amendment. And we keep hearing a lot about bringing it to the Thunderdome. I tell you, I wish the Thunderdome would do something about these electric prices that my constituents are calling us about, because they're astronomical. And I hear a lot about the savings and the cost savings from the Empower program. And to tell you the truth, we probably did have some cost savings. But the Empower program that was started in 2008 is not the same Empower program now. Originally, the Empower program was to replace your incandescent light bulbs and change your shower heads to provide some efficiency for your house. The purpose of the Empower program right now by legislation submitted last year, you know, we have so many gaslighting and fact checks in this chamber, it needs its own community note. It was HB 864 from last year, and it talks about greenhouse gas and emission reduction targets. That's what the Empower program is right now. It has been transitioned from a cost-saving program to a gas reduction program. Gas emission reduction program. That's in the title of the bill. And strangely enough, we had a bill just yesterday talking about Empower, cutting that, getting rid of some of these green woke mandates. And that bill had a hearing yesterday in E&T. How about that? Look, so when we talk about cost savings from this program, it's not the same program it's been for years. It's completely different. This is you putting, look, it's a lot of money, $20, $30, $40 a month on your electric bill for you to buy someone else a gas stove to replace their gas stove with an electric stove, to replace their gas furnace with an electric heat pump. This is a wealth redistribution scheme, and it should be called out as such. This program should go away and provide immediate relief to those struggling with high electric bills that is self-inflicted caused by majority of this chamber. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker. Second bite of the apple. I take great umbrage to the NIMBY comment, because repeatedly we have people coming before our committee with these energy bills saying, oh, we're going to put solar farms in the fields of agriculture in Carroll County, which is our #1 industry. And you know what we're told? Oh, we'll put them on stilts. Does anybody in this chamber know how big a combine is? This is not a zero-turn mower. This is a large piece of equipment. Now you're going to plow through the lands of Carroll County, Frederick County, and Baltimore County and put transmission lines up. I've got farmers coming to me in tears. They're going to put these transmission lines between his house and his barn. And so don't say NIMBY to me, because these are real people. And this amendment is very common sense. Let's take a pause. We call them off-ramps. I think we've talked about that many years over and over. Let's take an off-ramp and let's have a discussion and let's try to figure this out, because we cannot and we will not power the state of Maryland on solar and wind. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Committee Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I feel like we've drifted off, and I just want to make sure we correct the record. As my colleague understands, because she does shit in this committee, this is not the only bill. This is not the only bill that we have dealing with power. Anybody who sits in ECM understands that. And we've been working since the summer to deal with this issue. This is not a silver bullet. None of these are. We're going to be meeting and meeting again. We will have something out. When he said the word NIMBY, he said every county. Every county. The blame is spread evenly. Transmission lines, solar projects, natural gas projects, nuclear. Every county has said no, not here, which is why we are where we are. We can't blame this program on our energy bills. And what we're doing here by this amendment is just enriching the utilities, which is not something that I am willing to do. So for all that and all those reasons, I ask that you please resist this amendment. Thank you.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Clerk will take the call. There being 100 votes in the negative, the amendment fails.
Madam Speaker.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? You have an amendment?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Amendment number 283420.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Let me see if I can bring everybody back together real quick. No, I'm sure. Anybody in here remember being in college and you went to take money out? Some of the older people, we used to have to take money out, and it didn't come out. You're like, damn, where'd my money go? Or worse, nowadays, credit card bill comes in, and your spouse gets it. And they want to know, what you spend your money on? Well, you got to go through it line by line. Say, well, here and here and here and here. You got to justify it. Or you had to do it for your parents. It's because we want to know. They want transparency. We want transparency. This is a simple transparency amendment. All it says is we want to know where we're spending this money. It is going through DHCD, which handles Empower, which is why Empower is being talked about so much and mentioned in the bill. If we are going to be giving out grants and money, we should have a dashboard, much like we've seen 2 bills so far. One on the opioid restitution fund. It's a very well thought out bill. Where are we spending the money? The public should know. We're bringing in millions. Where has it gone? You should be able to access that and say, look, this is what we spent it on. So we justify it. We have a procurement one in here this year too. Hasn't moved out yet, But I agree. MBE comes in front of us all the time. They're like, where's the money being spent? Who is being hired? And they have a right to know. If they keep getting turned down, they should know who is getting hired. That's called good governance. And that's why I think this amendment is important. I know we're on different sides of ideological arguments sometimes, but I can tell you from my perspective, I hear from people all the time. What are you spending money on? How did we get here? They want to know. They feel like they're in the dark. We should not keep the public in the dark. We are the consent of the governed. We are here. We're a representative government. They need to know what we're spending their money on. And I think Empower was also brought up because I did have an energy bill hearing yesterday in ENT, not the Thunderdome, and I brought this up. To date, Empower has brought in $4.2 billion. They have helped exactly 243, of that $4.2 billion, $264 million has gone to low or moderate income people. That's 6.5%. Last year alone, I went to find this report that was presented in May of 24. $300 million was spent. $21 million to low income residents. That's 7%. So we're taking 100% of the people's money and diverting it to other people. Very little of it is going to low and moderate income. You know, most of it's going businesses to upgrade their buildings. On the back of the tax dollar, or back of the tax-paying citizens of this state. That's sad. All people want to know is, what are you doing with my money? And everybody's paying it. 2.4 million households in the state of Maryland. Every single one of them pays this money to their utility. I want a dashboard paid for by the utility and by DHCD to show us where the money is going. Everybody in here, you know, everybody's biggest villain is BG&E, and I understand. I'm mad too. I hate paying that bill. So they should prove to us, where is the money going? DHCD should prove to us, where is the money going? We ask for oversight all the time. That's what studies are for. What are we doing with the money? We need fiscal restraints. We need to be able to tell people what we're doing with their money. Jerry Maguire said it best. Show me the money. That's all this is asking. Show me the money. With that, I push the amendment, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Floor leader.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, this bill does not change anything in the Empower program. The gentleman's amendment is specific talking about the Empower program. Therefore, I'm going to ask for Economic Matters to speak about the Empower program, which is not relevant to this particular bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. And my only takeaway from that is that, you know, there's a bunch of weird purchases on his credit card, and it's threatening his marriage. So the information is available without cost. And I appreciate the maker of the amendment sharing it with me so I could walk him through the PSC website, which 2 clicks of a button, you can get that information and go line by line to see exactly where they're spending the money. I'm not really sure it's available by the oversight, the PSC. They're tracking the data. And so without consulting anyone at the PSC and trying to hire more bureaucrats, it seems, we just have a bill or an amendment to make up some dashboard that is in the mind of one. This information is available without cost. There is oversight. There is a report filed every year that proves the savings that you can get with 2 clicks. And so therefore, I ask the body to resist the amendment and support the committee.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of people that use the dashboard. North Carolina uses it for their opioid restitution funds. You can look it up. You can find it with one click. Oregon uses it for ARPA funds. South Dakota uses it. Minnesota uses it. We're going to use it here in this body. So it's good for some spending, but not all spending. Let's be honest. Most people don't even know who the PSC is. But if we have a dashboard, people know how to look up their bill on BG&E. I think it should be attached to your utility somewhere. A quick link. Where is my money going? That's our job. Our job is to inform the public. They may not like what we're informing them of, but they deserve the respect of being told what we're doing with their money. That's all I'm asking. And there's a lot of other states, counties, and this body that has already replicated what I'm asking for. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the maker of the amendment yield briefly, please?
Yes.
So can you read off some of the organizations receiving these funds?
Those are you talking about Empower?
Yes.
I don't have that list in front of me. There's several different programs. The Renewable Gas, Greenhouse Gas Initiative, they get funds. They go to things like Casa de Maryland and some Sustainability Now and some other places. I think the point you're getting at is it's hard to follow where the money is going.
I appreciate that, and thank you for the comments. And I just wanted to, I think, speak to the point the gentleman is getting at. This fund is on every bill for every ratepayer every month. The Empower fee is starting to look like its own bill. And Maryland ratepayers don't realize this, but there are now hundreds of millions of dollars in this fund. And we tell them it's going to low and middle income people. That's a lie. It seems that energy issues are the issues we lie about most on this floor. At least that's been my experience over the last 10 years. These funds aren't going...
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Just point of order. I don't think you should be accusing your colleagues of lying, even if you disagree with them.
I appreciate that. These funds are not going to low and middle income folks. They're going to NGOs. They're going to NGOs who are taking, every time, they're taking millions of dollars out of this fund, which is funded every month by the average ratepayer. People are shocked at what's happening at USAID right now. We've got our own structure for doing this, taking funds from average ratepayers and sending them to NGOs. So I think it's a very reasonable amendment just to show to the average ratepayer where these funds are going, and that's why I'll support it today, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Explain my vote, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, Madam Speaker? Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to explain my vote. I want to start by clarifying that there are not NGOs who are receiving these funds. I think that if anyone's interested in learning about how Empower works, we pay money in. All of our neighbors, all of us, have the ability to access those funds to make our home more efficient. But we can only access those funds if the efficiency that we put into our home is going to benefit the entire grid by lowering peak costs. So this is how $1 of investment, whether or not I take it in my home to put in a heat pump, actually benefits everyone. The reason that our peak load projections for 2045 are lower than they were in 2011 is because we have programs like Empower, and it is peak load that drives the increased costs to the grid, and the money goes potentially to everyone, and there's never been a time that we said it was only for low income. There is a low income program that DHCD runs, and the rest of the program is available to commercial, to residential, to everyone, but only if that investment is going to benefit the entire grid and save money for everyone. And so for folks who are interested in understanding why rates are increasing, I suggest that you look at the Exelon Investor Report, where they can show you their plans to increase capital expenditures over the next 5, 10, 15 years, all of which they expect is going to come from our ratepayers. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
Madam Speaker, explain my vote. If we're going to take $1 from a taxpayer and we're going to tell them we're taking that dollar for bay restoration, transportation, whatever it is, we need to follow that dollar to that project. And that's why I'm supporting this amendment. It's a transparency issue, and I think it's wholly appropriate. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
To explain my vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do want to thank the chair and vice chair of ECM for helping me find and emailing me the report. I am looking through it right now with what they were referencing. It doesn't have exactly what I'm looking for. It does have some breakdowns in sort of how the money is spent sort of broadly. So direct install measures, 72%, appliances 1%, weather measures 15%, HVAC 12%. But I think what I would like to see is exactly who is it going to? Are we looking at single families? Are we looking at businesses? Which businesses, if we are, and what kinds of purchases are being made? Because I think that's information that the public might want to know, especially when we're about to tax kayaks. Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, this amendment had me at hello, and it completes me. That's my movement. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. The clerk will call the roll. Take the call. There being 99 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 29. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1440, Courts Parental Accommodations. Favorable report is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All of my questions have been answered, and I asked extensive questions of myself last night about this bill. There are two committee amendments at the desk. Start with 913426. Move so much be the reading amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker, this amendment adds a definition of breastfeeding mother to the legislation. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Clerk will call the roll.
Nope.
Oh. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title?
Yes,
Yes.
Madam
I'm
Speaker.
sorry. Go ahead.
243020.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment adds a data collection requirement where the judiciary shall collect data regarding the number of people who seek to be excused under the bill. Move the amendment.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. That ends the work at the desk. I know you're relieved. Committee announcements, appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Appropriations Committee will meet at 1 o'clock for bill hearings.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, the House Judiciary Committee will have a voting session at 12:45 And then there will be subcommittee hearings after that. Please listen for subcommittee announcements.
Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Environment and Transportation Committee will meet for bill hearings at 1 o'clock. Listen up for subcommittees.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will meet promptly at 1 p.m. Please listen up for subcommittee meetings.
Economic Matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Economic Matters Committee will be meeting in the joint hearing room for a briefing with EEE at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Health and Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Because the Health and Government Operations Committee had hearings until 10 last night, we do not have hearings today. However, please listen to subcommittees. There's 3 subcommittees in a possible voting session. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Speaking of subcommittee, any subcommittee announcements? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Housing and Real Property Subcommittee will meet today at 5 o'clock or immediately after ENT business. Housing and Real Property, 5 p.m. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other subcommittee? Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Environment Subcommittee will meet after ENT hearings end today.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Motor Vehicle and Transportation Subcommittee will also meet after ENT bill hearings today.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Government Operations and Health Facilities Subcommittee will meet immediately following the floor session.
Okay. Any other Yes. Vice Chair. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Insurance and Pharmaceutical Subcommittee will meet at 2 o'clock virtually. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Family and Juvenile Law Subcommittee will meet after voting in Judiciary.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Public Safety Subcommittee will meet right after Family Law.
Madam Speaker.
Okay. Go ahead.
The Health Occupation Subcommittee will meet after the other 2 subcommittees have completed their meetings.
Wise choice. Yes. Chair, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Health Occupations is actually meeting at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Civil Law Subcommittee will meet immediately after the Public Safety Subcommittee in Judiciary.
Any other Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Public Health and Minority Health Disparities Subcommittee will be meeting 10 minutes after the Insurance Subcommittee completes their work.
Any other subcommittees? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Criminal Law Subcommittee is also meeting adjacent to the Judiciary Committee voting session.
Okay. Any other subcommittees? You doing a vote change?
Yeah, please. Madam Speaker, I need a vote change on House Bill 1210 in the red.
Does anyone else have any vote changes? Okay. All right. Any delegation announcements? Okay. Any caucus announcements?
I was a little slow. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was a little slow. Tomorrow, immediately following the floor, the Baltimore City House delegation will meet in the old House chamber.
All right. No one else is getting up. Any caucus announcements? Caucuses are not meeting then, huh? Okay. Then we'll go to the Women History Moment. Good delegate representing Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There once was a union maid who never was afraid of the goons and geeks and the company finks and the deputy sheriffs who made the raids. So begins a famous song about union women written by Depression-era folk singer Woody Guthrie. Women have been at the front lines of America's labor movement since before it could be called a movement. The involvement of women in unions and workplace organizing has led to countless workplace improvements, from banning child labor, health and safety work laws, and shorter work weeks, to equal pay for equal work, pregnancy protections, and family medical leave. As early as the mid-1800s, long before there was an AFL-CIO, women were marching, picketing, and striking for higher wages and better working conditions. Much of the pre-World War II union militancy on the part of women was levied against the textile industry, where thousands of women and children worked under substandard conditions. Toward the end of the Civil War, Kate Mullaney was just 18 years old when she led 300 members of the college laundry workers on strike against several commercial laundry establishments in upper state New York. Shortly after forming the union, approximately 300 of the women walked out of 14 commercial laundries. They were seeking a 20% wage increase and relief from the introduction of starching machines that were scalding their hands and arms. Within 1 week, the companies acceded to the workers' demands and the strike ended. Sister Mullaney was followed by thousands of American sheroes, some of whom you've heard of and many of whom you have not. For example, in 1903, Mary Harris Jones, you may know her as Mother Jones, marched with child laborers from Philadelphia to President Theodore Roosevelt's Long Island summer home to publicize harsh conditions of child labor and to demand a 55-hour work week. Clara Lemlich led several strikes of shirtwaist makers and challenged the mostly male leadership of the union to organize women garment workers in 1909. She led the New York shirtwaist strike, also known as the Uprising of the 20,000. It was the largest strike of women at that point in U.S. history. In the 1940s, Velma Hopkins mobilized 10,000 mostly African-American workers in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, to bring a union to the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. And then there was Crystal Lee Sutton. You know her as Norma Ray. She helped organize textile workers in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina at the J.P. Stevens clothing factory in 1973. And she actually did jump up on a table holding a sign that said union before she was hauled off the factory floor. Dolores Huerta marched alongside Cesar Chavez throughout the 1950s, 60s, and 70s to organize migrant farm workers throughout California and the Southwest. And when A. Jen Poe started organizing domestic workers in the year 2000, many thought she was taking on an impossible task. But under her leadership, the New York State Legislature passed the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights in 2010, and 17 other states followed suit. The history of the American labor movement is filled with stories of strong women who paved the way for better lives for workers. And right here in Maryland, we have our own union sheroes, some who currently serve in this body and some who have served in this body. But today, I want to recognize one outstanding Maryland labor leader who has fought tirelessly for workers' rights and women's rights for decades in this state. Donna S. Edwards is the first woman to serve as president of the Maryland State and D.C. AFL-CIO. She was also the first secretary-treasurer of the state federation, and she is a member of the general board of the National AFL-CIO. Before taking the helm at the state AFL-CIO, Sister Edwards was president of AFSCME Council 92, now Council 3, from 1992 to 2001 when she joined the state organization. She has also been president of AFSCME Local 112, the statewide 4,100 member union at DHR since 1984. She grew up in Cumberland, where her father was vice president of the glass and ceramic workers. She remembers riding in the back of a union car, listening to her dad discuss union business with his colleagues. Sister Edwards received a bachelor's degree in social work from the University of West Virginia and has a master's from the University of Maryland. She began her union activism as a social worker for the Baltimore City Department of Social Services in 1977. She told me this: as a social worker, I didn't think it was enough to just solve problems. I didn't want to just teach people how to cope. I wanted to teach them how to change. Naturally, that led her to a lifetime of union advocacy. Along the way, she had to learn not to get mad about misogyny and sexism, which was rampant in the union movement during her early years. And she was never allowed to show weakness. And of course, she didn't. In 2012, President Edwards was honored with the Maryland Democratic Party's first Barbara Mikulski Democratic Trailblazing Award in recognition of a lifetime of activism as a labor leader, social worker, and trailblazer for women leaders. So remember that Woody Guthrie song about the Union Maid? The chorus says this: "You can't scare me, I'm sticking with the Union. I'm sticking with the Union till the day I die." That, colleagues, perfectly describes Donna S. Edwards and her values. And there she is in the gallery. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are there any personal or guest announcements? Yes.
Madam Speaker, this is a Judiciary Committee announcement.
Oh, okay.
Understanding that we are not having a second session today, the Judiciary Committee will have its 4 subcommittees start in the order that you heard: and Family Subcommittee, Public Safety, the Civil Subcommittee, and then the Criminal Law Subcommittee. And then we'll have a voting session at 4 o'clock. Okay. There will not be a voting session at 12:45, just the one session at 4 o'clock.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I just want to give you a heads up that the University of Maryland's Maryland Fellows Program is here in Annapolis today. They have cookies and refreshments and posters done by their students, many of whom are interning for many of you. So if you would like to come say hello, meet them, they'd be really excited to see you. Also, the Student Government Association is hosting an ice cream thing on the Lawyers Plaza, so stop by. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Green Jacket announcement. The day has arrived for the Irish Caucus St. Patrick's Day celebration. It will take place tonight at 8 o'clock, where we will be honoring Madam Speaker and her selected charity, the Maryland Food Bank. If you have not paid yet, you're able to pay at the door, and it's at Galway Bay beginning at 8 o'clock. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Sure. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Apologies, given my chair's reshuffling of our timing, the Criminal Law Subcommittee is going to meet 15 minutes before the 4 o'clock voting session, so 3:45 p.m. In the Judiciary room for the Criminal Law Subcommittee.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health and Government Operations Committee will have a voting session at 5:30 voting session after subcommittee meetings. Thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker. On behalf of the Maryland Muslim community, I want to acknowledge this special month this month, which is the holy month of Ramadan. Ramadan is celebrated annually by millions of Muslims worldwide. It occurs in the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar and calls Muslims to engage in a month-long period of fasting, spiritual reflection, charitable giving, and worship. Those fasting during Ramadan do not eat or drink from sunrise to sunset. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Okay. Then, next thing, quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Clerk will take the call. There being 135 members present and the House still in session, recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned until Thursday, March 13th at 10 a.m., legislative date March 2nd.